last video segment. We're going to watch this segment, take notes, and then we're going to finish number 3 on the worksheet, which means we will have finished the whole worksheet. So, how do you take quadratic equations from standard form into the vertex form? The big answer is you complete the square. This is a big deal. Now, when you complete the square, you need the x stuff on one side, everything else on the other. That means this 7 is on the wrong side. Subtract it to the y side. Leave the y in there. You're not solving the equation, so you don't get rid of the y. You don't make y equal to 0. So leave the y alone. So, on the right-hand side, you should recognize that this becomes x minus 5 squared. Where did the 5 come from? Half of 10. Once you know this is 5, square it and put it here. What you put on the right side, you must put on the left side in order to balance the equation. So I reduce the right-hand side down to a binomial squared. Reduce the left-hand side by saying, well, what is 25 minus 7? 18. Then if you solve for y once more, subtract the 18 over, then you've got it. Okay? That is vertex form because I can see that the vertex is at 5, negative 18. The a value is 1. All right, so on this next one, what I want to do is leave the negative x squared minus 5x on the side by itself. So the 2 is in the wrong place. Add it to the y side. Now, here's the problem. You cannot complete the square the way it currently is written because you've got a negative right here. So what you're going to need to do is either factor it out or divide it out. Something tells me you might do better with dividing it out. So divide all 4 terms by a negative. So make it negative y minus 2 plus a space equals positive x squared positive 5x plus a space. Yee! 5x, that's not pretty because that's odd. Well, you're right. This is kind of a messy one. So I know it's going to be x plus. Now remember, how do you take half of 5? Just make it 5 over 2. How do you square that? Square the top, square the bottom, and add the same thing to the other side. Okay? Now, we've got some scratch work to do. On the left-hand side, I've got negative y, but I've got negative 2 over 1 plus 25 over 4. I need a common denominator, which means I need both terms to have a denominator of 4. So multiply this by 4 over 4. So it becomes negative 8 over 4 plus 25 over 4. Now 25 minus 8 is 17. So I say plus 17 over 4. Now, solve for the negative y. So all you have to do is subtract the 17 over 4 to the other side. You don't want negative y, you want positive y. So guys, this is one big term. Make it negative. This is a second big term. Make it positive. I'm done because I can see that the a value is an understood negative 1. The original a value here was negative 1. Those should always match. And I can see that the vertex is negative 5 over 2, positive 17/4. So I've done it. That's not easy because I had a fraction and a negative, but you can do it if you'll just take your time. Now, again, we need 3x squared plus 12x on the side by itself, so the negative 5 is in the way. Move it to the y side. My problem is I can't complete the square with a 3 here. So your options are to factor out the 3 or to divide out the 3. Since on the last one I divided, on this one Let's try factoring. So I've got x squared plus 3 divides out of 12x 4x times. Now, a couple things you have to be careful about. The 3 needs to come down. X squared plus 4x is building x plus half of 4, 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Now, most people want to put 4 here. That is not right, okay? That's the pitfall that most people fall into. So instead, what you've got to do is say, on the right-hand side, you have 3x squared, which you had already. 12x, which you had already. Plus 12 is the new thing. So plus 12 is the new thing that you must add to the left-hand side. So that gives you y plus 17. Now, all you have to do is say 3 times x plus 2 squared, subtract 17. Let me say this again. I said it on the previous slide, but let me say it again. In the first equation, your a value is 3. In your final equation, your a value is 3. Those must match. And then I can see that from the rest of the equation, my vertex is at -2, comma, -17. On the last one, you have the 1/5 x squared minus 2x that needs to stay together. The 8 needs to go to the y side, so subtract it. The problem is that I cannot complete the square because I've got 1/5. Now I can either factor it out like I did in problem 3, or I can multiply both sides by 5. Something tells me that if I do that, you all might have more success when you got the fraction thing going on. So if I multiply by 5, I have to say 5 times y is 5y. 5 times -8 is -40, plus a space. 5 times 1/5 is just 1x squared. 5 times -2 is -10x, plus a space. Now your right side suddenly looks a whole lot easier. So do you see it's going to be x minus 5. Again, half of 10 is 5. 5 squared is 25. And I can just put 25 over here. Now be careful, because on the left side, you actually have 5y and then minus 15. People mess up because they just like do y or something instead of 5y. So then you've got 5y equals x minus 5 squared plus 15. Now you're not done because you need 1y. So I have to divide all 3 terms. So this is one big term, and this is the other big term. Divide all 3 of them by 5. Well, instead of saying x minus 5 squared divided by 5, I say dividing by 5 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/5. And then I've got plus 3. Now let's go over this one more time. In the original problem, my a value was 1/5. In my final equation, the a value is 1/5. If those don't match, you've messed up somewhere. And then I can see that the vertex is positive 5, comma, positive 3. So I have finished vertex form. It is time for you all to finish the whole worksheet by finishing number 3.